I would like to call order the July 20th regular meeting for the spring office for the
Mrs. Rose,
yeah.
Mrs. Bendel. Yes. Here. Mrs. Garvey,
Here.
Mrs. Miller. Here. Dr. Sucker.
Here.
Join me to tonight. Thirdly, the United States of America. To the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. From the remaining 4 May June 1st, June 22nd,
Second.
Any comments? Actually, please take the roll.
Mrs. Rose.
Yeah.
Mrs. Bendel. Yes. Mrs. Garvey.
Yes.
Mrs. Miller. Yeah. Dr. Sucker.
Yes.
Not to advisor, but I believe that the only committee that was met in the last regular meeting, this one was some members of the inter-council I met with Mr. Doherty to begin to review the new district website, which hasn't been released yet. And it was really like a 2-hour work session with a lot of great feedback and people understanding some of the benefits to the website and pointing out some areas that I'd like to see hold up and highlight a little bit more. I don't know if you want to add to the.
No, but soon. Soon.
Okay. It was great. It was nice to see everyone during the summer, and there was a tremendous turnout considering it was a beautiful sunny Friday morning in the summer. I think we had like a dozen people. So.
Yeah. It's good.
At this point in the meeting, we invite members of our community to join in the public participation. If there's anyone here that would like to speak with the board, I have something I'll read first, but could you just raise your hand first? Okay, then we will move along to consent agenda items. I move to approve consent agenda items 4.1 to 4.26. You have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments? Ashley, please do the roll.
Mrs. Rose.
Yeah.
Mrs. Bendel. Yes. Mrs. Garvey. Yes. Mrs. Miller. Yes. Dr. Sucker.
Yes.
Moving on to superintendent recommendations, I would to approve superintendent's recommendations 5.1 through 5.9. Have a second?
I'll second.
Either way, whichever one.
Hold on 1 second, because something's out of order here. No, I just said the same thing. You did the same thing? Yes. Okay, sorry.
I see what it is.
It's 4.
Did
Mhm.
you catch it? Jennifer, anything you want to highlight on the superintendent's recommendation?
We'll just talk through a little bit and go and see. So 5.01 we just have classified personnel resignations. 5.02 is a certified personnel resignation. 5.03 is a central office exempt contract. This will actually replace the district registrar position that came open last month when Christina Dietz took Barb Wilson's position as the executive assistant to the superintendent. 5.04 are superintendent. These would be contracts for certified personnel for teachers, and I'll just tell you, the permanent building substitutes, those started back when we had, I think, probably 2020, 2021 school year. And those are, one substitute is assigned to each building, and they work every day so that they can be assigned to any classroom. And if that school has a person that knows the routines of the school, they know the students, they build relationships. And so we entered into an MOU again this year with CFEA, and we've done that now. This will be the 3rd year. So that's what when it says permanent building substitute, that's what those positions are. 5.05 would be the classified personnel contracts. You'll see many of those. That's because most of the what we would call educational support aides, student support aides, those were interviews were done in June, and you'll see different classifications this year. We only had one classification last year, and that was part of negotiations. Those classifications changed. So that's why you'll see things like student support aid, specialized student support aid. But those are all under that classification of educational support aid. 5. It goes on for a little while. 5.06 would be classified substitute rates. Chris Wolfter worked really hard on putting together a spreadsheet and doing some research because we had a struggle, and I think most districts across Ohio had a struggle with filling substitute positions last year, especially in the classified subgroup. And so he would like to increase the rates for what we pay our substitute classified staff. So, for example, when we're talking about classified staff, we're talking bus drivers, food service helpers, educational aides, clerks, secretaries, and then there's Saturday school monitors and custodians. And what happens is when we cannot fill a position, if it's open, we have to try to find someone who's already in that classification to fill that position. And when someone covers for someone else, they're paid at their daily rate, which is significantly higher. So if you think about it as substitute cost, we had an increase in substitute costs last year because we were actually paying employees to cover hours. If that makes sense? So if we just take one of these, maybe look at maybe the secretary, for example. A sub rate for secretary currently is $10 an hour. If one of our employees had to cover or help, fill a position or do a couple hours maybe during attendance, that could run us roughly anywhere between $19.50 and $22.15 an hour. If one of our employees in that classification had to cover, could somehow cover. And the reason I say they might be able to is someone may not work a full day, right? So they might have some time. So he's suggesting that we go from $10 an hour to $13.50. And that would be a more attractive rate to get more substitutes to apply for the district in the area of secretary. So those were the suggested rates that he wanted, and he did an update for the board that we shared. So you should have had access. I don't know if anyone had any questions about those rates.
I just wanted to add that, as I recall, in addition to showing the benefit to the district as a potential cost savings because we get subs at the $13 an hour rate, it was comparable or more competitive with what other districts are offering. So that one of the rationale that we weren't able to get substitutes is that there's more attractive for them to go to other districts where they're getting paid more.
And that's why we made the move back in January to raise our certified substitute rate, which is our teacher sub rate, and we were able to secure more subs. I think this will just be aligning them like classified sub to do the same. That's great. Additional hours is basically for prep work or training. That would be 5.07. Same with 5.08. 5.09 has been a lot of work. I think the board has done a lot of work. It was interesting that I don't think you have done a really hard look at the handbooks for a couple of years. And one of the reasons that this came out was because we've switched or are in the process of switching to Neola. Neola has a really strong process for looking at handbooks because you do one big revamp and you use your school attorneys to help with that process, whoever your firms are. And once you get your policies set and aligned to make sure everything, all your board policies match the handbooks and everything's current or what the current practice and current law, then every time there's an upgrade or an update, what Neola does is they send out those updates, right? And so when we're actually updating our handbook to what we need to do for practice and looking at policy, in addition to that, we're getting the updates of what schools should be doing in their handbooks. So instead of this complete revamp, which we kind of did this year, there weren't a lot of things that needed to be changed, but there were some language tweaks and those kinds of things. I think it will go a lot smoother next year. And I just did want to share that there are still some what we call housekeeping items that we're still finding, which may be like a spacing issue, or this word might need to be capitalized, or we may need to add a comma here. There's still a little bit of tweaking going on. So the versions that are attached here, there won't be any content change to what Mike will post, and I think they posted in Infinite Campus, but there may be some housekeeping that still just needs to be tweaked or finalized as we get those updated to Infinite Campus. So how you view them and how you see them. So there may just be a couple changes, but all housekeeping changes. So I really appreciate your help. I thought you had a really great idea of how to tackle that. And I would have never thought, but since you all are representatives to certain buildings, you each tackled a review of your building. I thought that was a really great way to look at that. So I don't know if there's any questions about handbook or if anybody else wants to share anything.
The only thing I would say is, and I know because we had an attorney review and things moved a little bit later into the summer than they normally would, it feels like we were kind of up against. I know went out about Infinite Campus. I've already talked to parents who asked me why the last year's handbook was the one they were reading on Infinite Campus. So if we can just plan for a timeline that has the handbooks approved prior to Infinite Campus being opened up.
It's fixed now.
Sorry,
It's updated to the newer version.
as of today?
Yes.
Okay. This was over the weekend, so, and anybody who, saw the email prompting you to go ahead and do it, they went on. And so what's the methodology for them getting the new handbook then?
Certainly the website. Really, the other thing, we do have language in there that people know.
Right. Right. It wasn't like it was explained,
Yeah.
but then kind of like, well, what,
Yep.
what is the new handbook going to be out? So maybe we could even do combined with another e-blast that's going out anyway at the start of school, just letting people know that
Sure.
they could, find the current handbook on Infinite Campus, just because there were so many changes. I'd hate for people to be referring to last year's version. So that's all. I think it was a little bit of a bumpy ride, but we got there. And if we can just plan so that the timing works a little bit better next year, that'd be great.
Any other comments? Ashley, this is Bill.
Mrs. Bros,
Yeah.
Mrs. Bendel,
Yes.
Mrs. Garvey,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper.
Yes.
And move to approve treasurer's recommendation. The treasurer recommend, actually, these were recommended.
Yeah.
I move to approve the treasurer's recommendation for this disposal of.
Second.
Actually.
No, the only thing on the agenda is disposal of equipment. There are 22 fabric boardroom chairs from Sands that are poor condition, outdated. 5 fabric chairs from the high school coach's office and a couch from the coach's office that are just need to go. So we're recommending your approval.
Any questions or comments? Ashley, please take the roll.
Mrs. Bros,
Yeah.
Mrs. Bendel,
Yes.
Mrs. Garvey,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller.
Yeah.
Dr. Schlepper.
Yes.
Does anyone want? Seeing none, our next meeting will be Wednesday, August 10th at 7 p.m. in the high school library. I move to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Ashley, please take the roll.
Mrs. Bros,
Yeah.
Mrs. Bendel,
Yes.
Mrs. Garvey,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Schlepper.